Hi guys, it's only a week to go. I wanted to do an update on the Brexit Party, particularly in relation to the defections we saw today. And I'm also going to be talking about some seats and just one other issue, the Lord's Taverner and the comedian. That'll only be a short comment. So, first of all, I think Boris's slogan about his oven-ready meal is becoming a little bit overcooked. So I think he needs to tail that one down. But that is certainly a ready meal that he enjoys having every night, and for lunch, and for dinner and breakfast, I think, because he's really liked that one, hasn't he? So I had a message from Chris, and Chris is one of my longest time subscribers. I think, Chris, you've been with me right from the beginning. And Chris has been campaigning for the Brexit Party in Doncaster, hence why I specifically wanted to mention Doncaster. There are two constituencies there, Doncaster North, Doncaster South, and according to Nigel Farage and LBC, they're feeling fairly confident there. So I'm not quite sure about that area specifically. It was never a great area for UKIP, but if the Brexit Party are getting some momentum there, then that's great. I think sometimes it's hard to judge when people are going door to door, because the Labour Party always seem to be very positive based on their reaction at the door. That doesn't always seem to translate into votes. But what I'm thinking now about the general election, I think the polls have reached a stage where they're no longer reflective of anything. And I think the polls only really show perhaps the gap between Labour and the Conservatives, but I have a feeling that on the night there are going to be some surprises, and I think the Lib Dems could do a little bit better than they predicted to, and I also think the Brexit Party are going to do better than they predicted to. I just have the strange feeling Labour are going to do a lot worse, and that partially comes from astrology. So when I heard the news today about Anouska Rees-Mogg and the other defectors, the big question I had was why now? Because once the parties had submitted their candidates, they were printed onto the ballot papers and you cannot remove their names. So even if they don't decide not to stand, as voters, when you go to the polling booth, the name is still there. So you're probably just going to tick it off and think they are standing, or maybe you didn't get the message they're not standing. So it's totally disingenuous of them to come out now. The timing indicates to me that it certainly was a Trojan horse, and that they were kind of Tory plants ready to jeopardize the Brexit Party just when, things were getting really tight. That shows to me two things. The Tory party is pretty worried about what the Brexit Party could do if they win some seats, and that the pressure that Nigel will be able to put on them. And that's why they've kind of pressed their nuclear button and had these 4 defectors come out to kind of damage the Brexit Party. I think, as you will know from the chart I did for Nigel Farage, I was always critical of him recruiting failed Tories for his party rather than getting a fresh crop of new, real Brexit enthusiasts. I felt that the Tories might just use him, get into the Brexit Party, because they can't get into the Tory party once they've got their kind of momentum for their career in the Brexit Party. They just waft back over to the Conservatives. I also felt that he was taking on people who had a lot of money, who were effectively buying their chance to be an MP. I think it's probably pragmatic because you need money to launch a campaign, but on the other hand, it's getting the wrong sort of people in the party. I was always sceptical of Anouska Rees-Mogg, not particularly the others. I mean, I don't know them that well politically, but I think they definitely were plants. It was a Trojan horse, and it's proof by why do it now? Why do it a week in? They had 3 weeks to say this. I mean, we've known Nigel is standing in all the northern constituencies. We've known that. It's old news, so why bring this out today? So that's what I'm sceptical of. But as I said, I think Nigel missed a trick in some of the people he chose. I think Anne Widdecombe was a great choice because she resisted pressure from the Tory party, and she's still giving it her all, as you'd expect. Nigel was saying on LBC how he could have become an MP years ago. In 2005, the Conservatives offered him a safe seat. They've always been worried about pressure from the right. I think the Conservatives are a ruthless party. They do what they can to destroy any up-and-coming party on the right. We know that, UKIP came along and they killed off the BNP. Then, of course, the Brexit Party killed off UKIP with the help of Nigel. And now Boris is coming along and they really want to kill the Brexit Party. I do feel, however, we need a big party around the UKIP Brexit area because we have to keep the Conservative Party conservative. Because the question is, when David Cameron was in power with Nick Clegg and the coalition government, they became almost like Lib Dem light, What's it all about? What are the Conservative Party actually conserving? And we need a party on the right who is going to talk about things like terror, immigration, crime, freedom of speech. Nigel's not touching any of those issues. So that's generally what I wanted to say about today. And just to end off with, I'm sure you all caught up with the news, either with ex-Army Paz or Mertusi, about the comedian at the Lord's Taverner event. And what I would say to that is, don't stop your enemy when they're making a mistake. I think the more that goes on, the more it shows to us that the metropolitan elite are still stuck in their little bubble. They still don't have a clue what's going on, and they're piling on the kind of they're sort of doubling down on the same things that are driving people away and making people sort of get pushed to the, I wouldn't call it the extremes, but it's driving people more away. So the more that people come out and do that, the more aware the average person becomes of how toxic things are in the mentality of the elites and at the BBC and within these so-called liberals. I think it just shows they're not liberal at all. They're actually very toxic. So definitely don't disturb your enemy when they're making a mistake. One more comment. Someone was talking about a focus group that happened on Channel 4, where they had like people who'd always voted Labour. I think there were about 7 or 8 people in the focus group on the programme. When asked if they were voting Conservative, everyone raised their hand. So it does show that there's a massive surge of Labour voters to the Conservatives. I don't think this is being picked up in the polls. And I think Nigel Farage was right on LBC to say that polling is a kind of manipulative industry in itself. It's used as a tool of political persuasion rather than to reflect real numbers. So we always have to be very skeptical of the polls, and the polls don't take account of tactical voting and of new voters, of course, and also of the smaller parties. I don't feel can reflect well, because obviously the Brexit Party is much stronger in the north now. The Lib Dems are much more powerful in the southwest, and I don't think polls really capture that because they include all the parties, including the SNP. I still think the SNP are going to do almost a clean sweep, apart from a lot of the Tory seats in Scotland, which I think they will hang on to. So good luck, Chris, in Doncaster, north, I think you said, rather than south, but good luck for the Doncaster seat. Way to go.